Hi, this is Congressman Tom Cole. It's 4th District of Oklahoma, another one of our weekly congressional chats. Uh, we're cutting this a little bit earlier because the week has been cut short. It's been a historic week in Congress. Obviously, the big news in the House is the what's called the vacating the chair, that is removing Speaker Kevin McCarthy from his speakership. That's a big deal for a variety of reasons. Let me say up front, obviously, I supported Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, so did 96% of all the Republicans in Congress. There was only 4% that linked up with every Democrat, and that voted first against a motion to table the resolution to remove the Speaker and then to actually remove the Speaker himself. Very dramatic. I managed the rule defending the Speaker. I thought we had an extraordinary range of people across the conference, from the most conservative members, people that are nationally known like Jim Jordan defending him, to traditional leaders, Steve Scalise, the Majority Leader, who's in a tough fight with cancer, and made sure he was there on the floor. Speaking on behalf of Kevin McCarthy. Again, there's just an impressive range of leaders drawn from all across the country and from every corner of the conference. In the end, I think this is an extraordinarily irresponsible thing to do. The Speaker, as I said on the floor, was really removed for three reasons. First, when he won the speakership in January, as many of you may recall, it took 15 ballots. That hadn't happened in 100 years. And really, it was because even though Kevin McCarthy got 85% of the Republicans in the conference vote to be our representative candidate for Speaker, and 90% of the Republicans on the floor, both very, very high numbers, we had a small group that decided they knew better, and they would try and extract additional concessions from the Speaker in exchange for their votes. Some of those decisions were good ones. I'm for stronger border security and for cutting unnecessary spending. Some of them were not, quite frankly. And even though I think the Speaker tried to give this small dissident group everything he wanted, in the end, 8 of them decided on their own just to go ahead and join up again with every Democrat in conference and plunge the country into chaos. Right now, we don't have a Speaker in the House of Representatives. If you don't have a Speaker, you can't conduct legislative business. One of the demands of the 8 dissidents was that all the appropriations bills be considered one at a time. That's actually a good thing, and we've done that. Over 70% of all federal spending that moves through the Appropriations Committee had already been approved and passed out of the House. And there are other bills that are teed up to be considered that now are on hold because, again, we can't bring them to the floor. So the people that were rebelling against the Speaker actually were delaying the consideration of bills, and many of them had done that previously, even though all these bills cut spending over last year, except in 3 areas: defense, which we increased modestly; veterans, which nobody thinks we should reduce, the benefits that veterans have earned; and finally, Homeland Security. And we know we're in the middle of a border crisis. Why in the world would you not put additional resources there? We have 11,000 people entering the country illegally every single day. Kevin McCarthy, was punished for standing up and not letting a small group hijack the entire Republican conference. That was strike one. Strike two was his decision to reach a debt ceiling bill and just make sure the United States paid all of its debts. If we don't do that, it'd be like if you didn't pay your credit card debt, you wouldn't have any credit left. Only it's much worse nationally. So again, he negotiated a bill. We got it through the House. It was a very stringent bill. Then he had to negotiate with a Democratic Senate, Democratic President. He obviously had to make some concessions, but in the end, he made sure that we did not default on our debt, which would have been catastrophic. Finally, on Saturday, he made, I think, a really bold decision and said, look, we're going to continue to negotiate on appropriations bills and on border security, but we're not going to shut down the American government while we do it. When we shut down the government, our men and women in uniform don't get paid, our civilian workforce doesn't get paid. If you need permits from the federal government to develop energy on federal lands, you can't get those. If you're traveling, you can't get a visa or can't get a passport. It's just an extraordinarily dangerous thing to do. We've tried shutdowns in the past on both sides of the aisle. Democrats forget that. In 2013, we shut down the government for 16 days to try and kill Obamacare. In the end of the day, Obamacare survived. You can't keep the government shut down long, and the other side just waits you out. In 2017, the Democrats shut down the government to try and force President Trump and Republican House of Representatives to enact DACA legislation, that is deferred action for unaccompanied minors, allowing those people who were brought into the country illegally, but as small children, they didn't do it themselves, to have a path to citizenship. We don't think that ought to be done without additional border security. Democrats wouldn't grant that, so at the end of the day, they shut down the government to try and force their way. It didn't work. And finally, President Trump himself shut down parts of the government. Fortunately, defense had already been taken care of, and some of the larger domestic spending departments, and he kept the government shut down 35 days in order to force Democrats to do more on the border wall. It didn't work. We were able to do more in a negotiation, but we inconvenienced the American people for 35 days. It's just not a tactic that ever works, and it doesn't matter which side does it. So again, when at the very last day, literally, Speaker McCarthy said, I'm going to put what's called a clean funding bill with disaster relief, no new money for Ukraine on the board, keep the government open. A strong majority of Republicans voted for that, and almost every single Democrat. But this group was upset, and so literally a matter of a few days later, and he knew he risked this to keep the government open, and these groups triggered the ouster mechanism, and again, their 8 votes don't mean very much unless they're combined with every other Democratic vote. It was disappointment, honestly, to see Democrats throw a speaker who had put on the floor something they said they wanted, something that would keep the government open, something they all voted for, literally every Democrat but one in the House, and yet they turned right around on literally Tuesday after he did what he did on Saturday and cooperated with these 8 people that they have nothing in common with and kicked him out. So we're now in a crisis. I made the point on the floor that the people triggering this, that is the 8 Republican dissidents and the entire Democratic conference, were putting the country and the House of Representatives in chaos. Nobody knows what comes next. Nobody knows who the next speaker is going to be. There's now a contest underway. Fortunately, I would say there's a lot of good candidates. Steve Scalise, who is the Republican Majority Leader, well-known figure. Some of you may remember he was a person that was shot by leftist demonstrators at a congressional baseball game practice a number of years ago. Much to the surprise of everybody, he came back, is running. So is Jim Jordan, who is a very capable guy, our chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Kevin Hern in our state is looking at it and would be a fine speaker, no question about it. So we've got at least 3 good candidates, and there's some other people eyeing it. There'll be a candidate forum next Tuesday for all the Republicans to choose, and then if they have all the Republican votes, they'll go to the floor. Now again, if we have a few people that hold out for this or that, that process could be drug out. If that happens, again, we won't get the bills, which are all demanding be heard and amended, taken care of. Because again, until there's a speaker, this stuff can't be dealt with, and we could stumble into another shutdown, or we could stumble into what's called a CR, continuing resolution, that would basically flat fund the government. In most areas, that's not a bad thing, but it's a dangerous thing when it comes to defense, when it comes to homeland security, and when it comes to taking care of our veterans. So that's not a good outcome. So right now, we're focused on trying to get that done, and we'll be looking forward to, again, a good contest between good candidates, but something that could have been avoided had the 8 people in question here on the Republican side simply been willing to support a speaker that had the support of 96% of all the registered Republicans. He got 210 votes in the speaker's contest. There were only 8 Republicans that voted against him. But again, when you put that with the 208 Democrats, that was enough to win. This is pretty unprecedented. It's never happened in American history. In the 200, Congress was founded in 1789, so we've had this system since then. So what's that, 234 years? This is the first time this has happened, that a speaker has been ousted in the middle of his term. That's just really unfortunate. And frankly, I think the people who did this and the Democrats who cooperated with the Republicans who did this, because the Republican member that filed the bill, have been extraordinarily irresponsible. And they've put the functioning of the government at risk. And frankly, they handed over control of the floor of the House of Representatives to the Democrats. And that's something that, again, Americans did not vote for in the last election. They voted to create a Republican majority to check Joe Biden. The only beneficiary of this, I would say, has been the Democrats. It will make it harder to get legislation done and more difficult to make conservative bills done. And again, all these people that did this said they're conservative. They're not really conservatives in my view. Real conservatives play by the rules. And the rules are, when a speaker wins the conference nomination, you support the speaker of your party on the floor and you protect them from moves like these folks launch. So we're going to be tied up in dealing with that early next week. It's my hope, again, we have excellent candidates. I have no quarrel with the people that are running. And again, all of them supported Speaker McCarthy. We'll eventually get to a consensus, but it will delay legislation in the meantime. So with that, I would just tell you, I'm pretty proud of the people that did the right thing, which is the overwhelming majority of my conference. Every Oklahoma Republican voted to keep Kevin McCarthy and not turn over control effectively on the floor to Democrats. But again, we had people in a few other states that for their own personal reasons decided to create this chaos, and they're promoting themselves and they're saying they're great conservatives. That's not really what happened here at all. So we'll keep working, because I think it's important that government operate, but that we bring spending down, that we push forward Republican priorities like defending the country, taking care of our veterans, and particularly defending the border. Speaker McCarthy had done a better job at doing this than anybody we've had in a long, long time, and so I regret it. He'll be fine. He's still a member of Congress, and if he decides to leave Congress, I'm sure he'll have a very successful and lucrative career doing other things. But it's a shame that we're sidelining somebody who not only I think was a very effective legislative leader for us, but honestly, he's the one that created the Republican majority. He raises money, recruits candidates, laid out our political strategy, and we were able to win the majority even while Republicans lost seats in the Senate in the 2 elections. As a matter of fact, every election that Kevin McCarthy was our top leader in, we picked up seats. So his loss is a real loss to conservatives and to Republicans, and a real victory for Democrats. And frankly, that's why they all voted against him. My experience is, if you say you're a conservative Republican and you look up on the board and every single Democrat is voting for you, you might want to rethink your position. You're probably not doing something that's advancing the conservative agenda of the Republican cause. That's my view of what happened this week. But again, you deal with setbacks in life. We all have them. And then you put the pieces back together and you get back to work. And that's what we intend to do. So I'm sure we'll have an interesting update next week. I hope we have a new speaker by the middle to the end of next week. If we do, we'll be able to get back to work legislatively and do more on the border. We think we can force the Democrats and final spending bills to put a good policy and more resources on protecting our southern border. I certainly don't want to lose what we've done in defense. That would be a substantial cut in current defense spending. That's not good in our district that has both Tinker Air Force Base and Fort Sill Army Post, but I think it's not good for the country. We live in a very dangerous world right now, and you know, the things that were done this week by, again, a very small number of people, I think made the country less safe and less functional, and certainly played right into the hands of President Biden and the Democrats in the Senate and the Democrats who are still not the majority, thank goodness, in the House. So with that, stay tuned. We'll make progress, and good luck. God bless. We'll talk to you next week.